Hello and welcome to my channel, Emma's Life in Norfolk. So this is the channel where I talk about my life in Norfolk, the things that I get up to, the places that we visit, and also sometimes when we go out of the county and different projects we're involved with or we go on holiday. So thank you very much for following me on this channel. In today's video, I'm going to be repotting my lilac tree that I got from my birthday in May. It was still in its original pot and I still hadn't moved it over, so I do that. I've also now started tidying up the greenhouse. So there are quite a few plants that I never got round to planting out, some things that I may need to overwinter, although I'm trying to avoid overwintering too many plants because I really want a proper clear out of the greenhouse, really to avoid any pests next year. Also, I need to get in, and my husband will help me replacing one of the panels which has been smashed for the whole of this season, so I'd like to get that done. I then move a massive bag of soil, which has now been there about 3 years because I didn't want to spend money on a skip. So we had two massive great bags of soil. So some of that I have been putting in my brown bin. A little bit of that is okay, but you obviously can't put too much in because it makes it too heavy. So I clear that all up. What I've got left, I then rake over the area, so that disappeared quite quickly. I then did some general tidying up, and also I do need to do something about my thousands of pots. I've got so many, and many of you have commented on that, and it's starting to look very cluttered in the working part of my garden. So I hope you enjoy today's video, and let me know in the comments any plans that you've got for the end of summer and going into autumn, or wherever you are, because of course different hemispheres people are experiencing now going into the spring. So let me know what your plans are for your garden. So as you can see, I start the video by repotting this lovely lilac tree that I got for my birthday in May from my sister. Now, it was much harder to get out of the original pot than what I thought it would be. It was quite sort of, the roots had kind of all grown underneath. I wouldn't say go as far to say it's pot bound, but it's quite difficult to get out of the pot. Then I just loosened off the roots around it, and then I had to bring it up a little bit. Now, the pot that I've put it in is quite a lot bigger, but didn't seem like that had that much extra space. So we'll see how it gets on next year and then see whether I need to put it into a different pot or whether it's happy in this pot. You can see how I've got hardly any flowers flowering at all now. The delphiniums were absolutely stunning, but I wish they weren't so close to the front of the bed. I don't know the answer is really. I could move them further back, but then I'm worried that there won't be enough light for them to be lovely and tall. Alternatively, I could make the border a bit thicker and then they'll be more like they're in the middle as opposed to right at the front. I then used some soil that I had from the beans, little dwarf beans. All that soil was from the compost bag. So that was all new. So I thought, well, I'll use that again and that'll be really quite rich. And then as I was doing so, I found a walnut in there. Obviously it had been planted for me by the squirrel. That's why we do get walnut trees come up in our garden, because about 6 houses away they've got a walnut tree which is covered in walnuts, and the squirrels absolutely strip it bare and they run around my garden planting walnuts. So that fits quite nice in there, and what I like about this idea is I will then be able to move the tree to different places. So maybe when it flowers I might move it to the front of the house by my front door. And then I spent some time in the greenhouse. So I had a bit of a disaster with the greenhouse in that the batteries ran out, and so my automatic timer, which goes on with sunrise and sunset, was not working. So I went in there, and that's obviously been about 3 or 4 days where it had got no water, unfortunately. I have lost a few plants, and I really think I'm going to have to take everything out of the greenhouse, not overwinter things at all, so I can completely clear it out, clean it out, replace the piece of glass that's broken with probably a piece of strong plastic, because otherwise you just get so many pests. This is the first time in years I have had loads of snails. With slugs, I'll put slugs in the brown bin, like for green grass and weeds and stuff, but I don't want to do that with snails. There's something about snails that I like, even though they do eat my plants. And also I do, every time I see a snail, I would like to set up a little snail, what they call it, there's a certain word, where you farm them. So they lay eggs and then you get the little ones and you grow them on and then you eat them. I can see at this point some people shouting at the TV or turning my channel off the thought of eating snails. But you know, if we had a long-term power outage, I'd be able to survive by eating my snails and my plants in the garden. It does look very green in my greenhouse. Now, one of the things that continues to do really, really well, of course, are my vines. So I'm going to put them outside, and then when it comes to springtime, I will plant them where I try to move that vine. And then in spring, hopefully the vine will go crazy and I'll get to a point where I'll get some grapes again. It might be a few years, but that's the thing that I love about gardening. It's always thinking about the next year or the next season or the next few years. So the time that I'm actually out here, I had originally planned to go to the gym. Hence why in the beginning video I was wearing my gym top and I've got the clothes that I was going to wear in the gym. I was going to go straight after the school run, but unfortunately I didn't bring my water bottle and I thought that's okay, I'll go without. I'll buy a bottle of water. And then I realised that I'd packed my flip-flops and I was wearing my fly shoes, not trainers. There's no way that I could go to the gym not wearing trainers. So I decided to come home, go to the supermarket and then do quite a lot of jobs outside in the garden. There's a lot more to do in the greenhouse though, a lot more. I'm also wary, I don't want to upset the newts. That's the other thing. I need to check whether newts hibernate. I don't think they do, but I don't want to do anything in the greenhouse that's going to upset them. So whenever I look at videos, either inside my house, for those of you that follow me on my other channel, or in my garden, you spot things that you don't see when you're in there. Well, I do anyway. So when I look back at videos of my garden, boy, do I notice the pots. The pots, the canes, the weeds, the lilac bush that needs to be cut back, the chicken shelter, which is getting in a worse and worse state. You suddenly see things, the fact that I'm climbing over plants and all through long grass. So here you see it moves on to where I've got all my raspberry canes. Now the raspberry canes were planted at the end here quite a few years ago, maybe 8 years, 9 years. It's gone from strength to strength. So this year, we've got a lot of raspberries, but it's making it really hard to get to the shed. And the other thing that's making it really hard to get to the shed is that massive great bag of soil. So this was when we put the pathway down at the side of the house and we did all the patio about 3-4 years ago. I didn't want to spend money on a skip, so I saved £400 and instead disposed of all the rubble, waste, rubbish in my own way. Now, you can put some soil in the brown bin, but you obviously cannot put too much in. So you can put stuff that's left over from weeds, things like in pots, emptying pots out and that sort of thing, which just had a plant. But you can't fill the brown bin up with soil. So I've kind of over the last sort of few months, I'd say, I've been slowly getting rid of a little bit of soil in the brown bin, which you are allowed to do. But the rest, so it's gone down quite a lot over a long period of time. And then the rest of it, you'll see here today, I didn't go to the gym, but this was a workout. So lifting that massive great bag with what was left inside it was really hard. And I have to be careful I don't strain the bottom of my back. I noticed on some exercises at the gym I'd hurt the bottom of my spine, so I can do without doing things that sort of further pull it. But it was hard work. But I got to the point where I emptied it out, and that now means that we can, of course, get rid of this massive great bag, which has sat in the way for the last however many years. The soil that was left, you'll watch me in a minute, I rake that all over. And I think by creating space, that's going to enable me to position my compost bins where I want them. There's a couple of shelves. So can you see where the brown bin is? Behind that is part of a shelving unit that has been in here for absolutely ages. Well, I've got a new one in my shed. So I think I might bin that one, which is starting to get a bit rusty. And I really need to sort out some pots. I just feel like I'm overwhelmed with pots. The difficulty that I have is that when I start going through the pots, I want the big ones, then I keep the small ones, and then I want the medium-sized ones. And I'm worried if I get rid of loads, then the ones that I then later want, I won't have any left of because I've given them all away. And I certainly could not bring myself to bin them. Actually, that reminds me of a time in lockdown, and I was growing loads and loads of plants, and I had loads and loads of plants spare. So I put some on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, for free. Nobody wanted them for free, so then I put them for sale, and I got loads and loads of inquiries. So I sold quite a lot of my spare plants, and because all the garden centres and everything were closed, sadly. So I remember saying I ran really short of pots, and I said to somebody, if you bring your pots back, then I'll fill them. And they said, oh no, I put them straight in the bin. I can only pick myself up from the floor. So you can see there I am raking all the rest of the soil over that piece of grass and a little bit of garden. So I've now lost that, which I'm really pleased about. So there's a few things that I have got planned for this area. So if you think about my archway, at the moment, when you look through my archway, what you see is some random plastic bins and that shelving unit. I would like to get to a point that when you look straight down the archway, you see like a nice shrub, or I could put my new lilac tree there or something. So although this is the working part of the garden, it would still be nice to look through that archway and see something nice, if you see what I mean. And then what you can see me cutting off the raspberry canes, which have all gone for it. So the bits which have just gone brown and dried, so I was cutting them back. And then in a minute, I go and get some ties from the greenhouse. Now, this is not something that I would buy, this sort of green plastic and with a thin bit of metal inside it. It's not something that I'd buy. I was given this. So I have used it around my garden. I'm sorry how the light is flashing a little bit on the camera. I hope that doesn't affect anybody who's watching it. I don't know why that's doing that. I guess that must be how the sunlight is shining through the trees. So yeah, I put all the canes, I attached them to the bit above my fence, and I attached them to the plum tree that's there. We have got a plum tree there, although I never really get anything from it. I think down here, the soil quality is so poor. I was actually amazed that I got any raspberries from this, but I was lucky. And then on the right, you can see that blue container. Do you remember in one of my earlier videos this year when I planted the potatoes? Well, that blue container is full of potatoes. So I shall be digging those up once I've dug up all the potatoes in my little vegetable patch. So this Sunday, some plans for the garden are, my daughter's got some radishes, which she's really keen to put in. So we're going to weed a section of the garden and put some radishes in. And also, my leeks are doing really well and need to be moved into the garden. Now, someone who knows much better than me, am I too late? So my leeks, I put the seeds in the tray, The leeks are actually quite a decent size in the tray, but I haven't yet put them into the ground. Anybody know if I'm too late? Some other jobs that I need to do is I need to weed my front garden. So both in the stones, there's a lot of weeds have just appeared from nowhere. I've not done that since, well, maybe June. So I really need to get on top of that. My grass went a bit wild. My grass also has quite a lot of weeds in it. The lavender has just become massive. Now, I never put lavender in. My dad had some lavender plants and he put them in mine and my sister's garden. He never asked, he just planted them in, which was thoughtful of him, and the bees love them. But they have become massive, so big that they're now covering up quite a lot of my other plants. So I need to think about that, what I can do to really maybe cut the lavender back quite hard. I have taken some lavender to dry because I'm going to be making some lavender bears, bedtime bears, with my girl guides. So hopefully that will dry out and I'll be able to use that. So I've got quite a few things that I want to do in the front garden because I also want to put loads of tulips in. So I really love spring bulbs. So this is the sort of time we need to start thinking about planting bulbs. So daffodils and tulips, it's a good time to start thinking about it. And the other thing that I always think people forget is you need to start tidying up the garden now after summer, and not do that like in November and January. So I notice that often people, they start tidying their garden up when we've had frosts. Now, of course, if you do that, you can really impact the insect population and therefore our pollinators, because where they're in the leaves or the eggs or the chrysalises, etc., that all just gets moved, and then the insects die or get eaten by predators. So I'll try to do as much as I can and fill the brown bin up before the first frost, which, we've got quite a decent amount of time before we get a frost, hopefully. And then I don't tend to do much clearing up in January either for the same reason. So I thought I'd just do this from the other angle so you can see the space that I've now created because I got rid of that soil bag. But all the pots that are here, there and everywhere. I do want to make this area easier for me. It's so cluttered and I'm literally climbing over things. So I'd like to go through a couple of your comments now. So thank you very much for those of you that add comments to my channel. It's really enjoyable to read, and I really also like seeing what you're all up to in your gardens. So I'm going to go through some of your comments now. So it seems that a number of you liked watching my video where me and my husband were both working together, trying to get lots done. So my rusty garden, if you don't already follow my rusty garden, then please check Ali's page out. Ali says, wow, great job on the tiles, hubby. All looks fantastic. The fig tree is huge and I'm sure we'll love its new home. You are definitely getting the jobs ticked off, and that little trimmer is super. Have a great week. From Ali in Canada. Thank you, Ali. Deja Grenage says, hello Emma, I love this video. Great job you're doing, from Stacey in Virginia. Thank you, Stacey, that's lovely. Sandy says, lots of work by you two. Your husband has done a terrific job on the hot tub area. 2 newts, how awesome. Beautiful little town there after the plane, fun by your husband and daughter. Oh, Sandy, thank you for the lovely comments. Yeah, my husband's worked really hard on the tiling. He hasn't yet finished because we've had so many things. And we've had my father-in-law's birthday, other jobs to do outside of the house, just weekends that are literally packed for things. So he hasn't yet been able to do it. And then this week is a bit manic, and he needs to go and finish that painting job over at Yarmouth. And that's really urgent because obviously we want to get somebody in that house. Do you know, I'd quite like to put that as an Airbnb, but that's another conversation for another day. Angela Wag says, great video, Emma, lots of progress. Dawn Duke. Hello, Dawn. Dawn lives in Australia. Dawn's put, hi Emma, garden centre is where we go to buy pot plant mower thingy, which is wheels. Oh, mover, sorry, mover. Sorry, I don't know the proper name for them. They are very handy. Your husband has done an amazing job laying the floor. Bye for now, Dawn from Perth, Western Australia. Thank you very much for your comment, Dawn. Nan Holmes also commented about the barrel. A number of you said to me about putting the barrel on one of these things with wheels. I wish I'd done that now. I've not done that. And the barrel, goodness me, needed like 2 men to lift it. It's so heavy. And now it's full of soil and a tree. I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to move it. So that was a bit of foolish for me, really. And Claire Dubois replied and said, yes, that's exactly what I was wondering. It would mean you could place it in the corner but move it when you needed to get to your car box. Lovely video and well done on with your potatoes. So I can still get to the side of it to get my car box and to get down the side of our sort of hot tub area. But what I'm slightly bothered about is the fact that wasps love fig trees. And I did mention that to my neighbour because they've got a fig tree close to the house. And he was like, didn't really think it would be a problem. But we don't want to be sitting in the hot tub, do we, with wasps flying around. So we might have to think about what we do about that. And then the other things that I just now did in this video, because I moved this bag of soil, it's now so much easier to get to the water butt, which is to the left of the shed. So much easier. There's also some wood stain and some big paint pot container. And some tomato ripe. I'd like to get to a point where they are put in the shed, but as I videoed before, it's almost impossible to get into the shed at the moment. So I do really need to declutter the shed at some point. And then right at the very end of my video, I do a short clip showing you some shops full of Christmas decorations. And then for those of you that know Norwich or Norfolk, I was shocked to walk through Chapel Field Gardens just as the sun had gone down. So you can see it's not dark, but the sun was starting to go down. It's absolutely full of rabbits. So people were sitting out on the grass and there were rabbits everywhere. I was really, really shocked. It reminded me of UEA, University of East Anglia, where they have lots of rabbits, but they were everywhere. So I thought I'd do a little clip and share that. So thank you for watching my video. Thank you for your support and for your comments. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.